What is shakin', Internet? This is Salt bringing you the How to Tank for Dummies Iron Quan LFR guide. Iron Quan is the 10th boss in the Throne of Thunder raid instance, and the first boss for the last quarter LFR instance named the Pinnacle of Storms. For those of you in queue or fighting trash, a quick synopsis. 4 phases: don't stand in fire, lightning, ice, or tornadoes, switch at 2 stacks of Impale, and have fun? Okay, let's go ahead and start on the Ryu guide for dummies. First up is the trash. The trash is pretty ignorable, just a couple of packs. Follow the group as they'll probably likely skip most of the trash. Just make sure you're going towards the boss and AoE down whatever pack. It really doesn't matter too much. Now, Iron Quan himself, he's a really straightforward fight actually. I'll cover each phase individually, but this is a simple fight, so don't worry about it if it sounds like quite a lot of abilities to go on. Before we get into the phases though, Quan has one move that he uses throughout the whole fight, Impale, which basically gives a big DOT on his tank that stacks. You should swap tanks at 2 stacks, allowing it to fall off before switching back tanks. Okay, now phase 1 is where he jumps on his fire Quillen. Quillen? I don't know how to say that. I'll say Quillen. He'll throw out spears every so often that send out fire waves. Simply don't stand in the fire, and you can ignore this. His only other ability that he should be using is Unleashed Flame, which deals damage to a group of raiders provided they're stacked up. It also gives them a debuff that increases the amount of fire damage they take, but it seems to be pretty much ignorable in LFR, I believe due to a short timer. If you somehow are near people because they're bad and in front of the boss instead of behind it, where they can do more damage, be aware if you start getting stacks of the Scorched debuff, because that'll increase the damage that you take. All you have to do is stay away from people, and this shouldn't be an issue. One final note about this phase, though. If he isn't casting Unleashed Flame a lot, it's because people aren't stacked up. This is actually a bad thing. Unleashed Flame eats up his energy, and if he doesn't cast it, he will get to full energy. At full energy, he'll start casting Molten Overload, which basically does massive AoE damage for the entire raid for like 10 seconds. It's better just to get hit by the Unleashed Flame in this phase. Now, phase 2 is the Lightning Quillen. He'll throw a similar spear that leaves lightning trails on the ground. Don't stand in them, or you'll get stunned for a long time. Windstorms is a move that he'll cast that pulls everyone to the middle of the room and summons tornadoes in a big circle. This move is super annoying because while you're in this big circle, you'll take more damage, do less damage, and receive less healing. And the circle is ginormous. What's worse is that it's hard to run out because of all the tornadoes that stun you and do some damage while the whole thing pulls you back in. Just stick it out and try to get out of the big circle. You can't really do any damage to the boss, so just run out of the circle and wait until he comes back down. A good idea is to put a marker down so people don't run in random directions. Giving people an endpoint to get out of the circle seems to let them focus, even in LFR. Do note that the tornadoes will stick around after the storm ends, or at least some of the tornadoes will stick around after the storm ends until the end of the fight. One last little thing about this phase. Quan will put random raiders under a cloud, stunning them and absorbing any healing they receive. The only way to free them is to click on the clouds. As a tank, you really shouldn't have to do this much, but if you get the opportunity, go ahead and click on clickable clouds. Third phase is the Frozen Quillen. Again, with the spear and the stuff you're not supposed to stand in. If you stand in it, you get like rooted and frozen in place. I actually did this in the video, you can see behind me, and it takes forever to get out of it. It's like a 20-second, 30-second root or something. The boss will put up shields around him every so often with Dead Zone, his move Dead Zone. And if any raider attacks him from the direction of the shield, they do no damage. Nothing for you to really do here besides try to avoid the shields when he puts them up. He can put them up on his front, his back, his left, or his right. He can only put 2 up at a time, so you just find a spot that isn't shielded and you wail away on him for a few seconds. Additionally, he'll be using some raid-wide frost damage every once in a while, but it's pretty unpredictable, so you really shouldn't have to worry about that. Phase 4, Quan is all out of Quillen, so he will just start punching himself. Well, I guess he won't be punching himself, he'll be punching you. But he'll be punching, never mind. There's really not much to note here except that he will continuously buff himself for more damage every 10 seconds or so. He'll also cast Fist Smash, which, contrary to its name, does raid-wide damage. It doesn't make any sense to me, but he basically smashes his fist on the ground and does damage to everybody in the entire raid. He'll also charge tornadoes with fire and ice, but you shouldn't be touching any tornadoes at this point. They'll basically just increase the overall damage to everyone in the entire raid. Not a big deal. The most damage directly to tanks comes at the end when Quillen is buffing himself. The other time you might be taking some extra damage is in Phase 1 if you go through a Molten Overload, aka the boss gets full energy. But overall, this fight is extremely simple. Just don't stand in stuff. Unfortunately, there's a lot of stuff to not stand in. Run out of the circle of the tornadoes if you can, and taunt off every 2 stacks of Impale throughout the entire fight. Use your big cooldowns near the end when the boss starts getting buffed significantly if you need them. Hopefully you've enjoyed this quick guide for Dummies. Please like, favorite, share, subscribe, and, as always, you keep it salty, Internet.